Ola is the last child of the house and a bit spoiled. So she's supposed to be saying this. This herself. I'm sorry. But I'm going to do the background.
I think this is defamation of character. This is not what I signed up for.
Please show me now. And I just, you are not a guest.
Where's the exit?
We know, dear. Sit down properly, Joe. Hello and welcome on the E.B.U.N Show. If you're already subscribed and you keep coming back to this channel, a big thank you to you for making our time on the show worth it. If it is your first time, it's good to have you around. Welcome to the family. It's the online talk show for women and the men who love them. But please hit the subscribe button. So today, it's going to be a gisty episode with my younger sister. We're going to be talking about studying abroad, being single, and chasing after one's dream. And of course, childhood. So we actually started this episode, we started recording sometimes back, and we're going to discuss patriarchy. But then, life happened. Children happened.
Do you want to be finer than the person? Yes, we have started. Yes, we have started. Because you were adding every day. How many rings do you have on your finger?
Checking, should I make it 7? So it will be perfect.
No, make it 10. One for each finger. Alright, she's my baby sister.
She's my baby sister.
Nikki, what do you believe?
She's my baby sister.
My baby sister. Okay, so they say it's a men's world, and
because if you look at the system of patriarchy, it is not. Oftentimes, it is even women that reinforce this system. It is both male and female that reinforce the system. Look at the conversations that women have within the home. Look at what the older women are telling the younger women. You need to know your place. You need to do certain things. If a woman, say a mother-in-law, comes to the home and a son is cooking, you need to be privy to the kind of conversation that she's having with the wife. That do you want to turn into a woman? Do you want
woman rapper?
Woman rapper. So those are so often sometimes. The systems of patriarchy.
My daughter is somewhere there. That's why I'm looking back. So here we are today. You saw what we were going to do the last time, but the energy is totally different. And so we're going to be discussing her. But you know, even no murawalini. Igara, oh yeah, beat this clothes.
Why are you trying to outshine your guests?
Because in the first place, in the first place, you were not supposed to overdress the host.
No, so here's the thing. Okay. You as the host, the spotlight should be on your guest. Everything you do should be to spotlight your guest.
Oh, I think so, guest. You are not a guest. You are my younger sister.
I'm not a guest.
You are not a guest.
Where's the exit?
We know, dear. Sit down properly, Joe. But really, I love my talk. From new stitches. From whom? Huh? from new stitches.
Amazon.
You are not the host.
Okay, sorry.
From those stitches, baby girl, you're doing well. I'm a knee problem. Ola is my younger sister. She likes to be called Janet Adekule or Lanre Adekule. It's amazing how someone will have two different names. We call her Ola in the house. They call her Lanre outside or Janet. So
then at work they call me Janet.
Huh? What? I'm a father. Close the episode. So Ola is the last child of the house and a bit spoiled. So she's supposed to be saying this. This herself. I'm sorry. But I'm going to do the background.
I think this is defamation of character. This is not what I signed up for. Did you tell me this?
So you know that's situation where your parents would train the older ones strictly, other ones, and for her, it was about like half measure of the training?
No, what happened was that they had perfected the training, and when they got to me, they trained me best. So I'm the best version in the house. That's a better way to put it.
If you hit on the leg like this, mommy say my balloon. If you hit on the leg, they say no, it's not good to hit. But you cannot scold that. That's the annoying thing. Yeah. So what I dealt with this girl growing up.
So that's a way of saying that she was a bully.
Bully kid.
And I found
so whenever mom went out and dad went out, man, I will beat.
I found a remedy.
What remedy?
So I learned to talk without moving my lips. So you be beside me and I'll be saying rubbish and you get angry. But
whenever they left, I would still come back to beat her. So, well, that was how we grew up. We grew up in a very loving family. Despite all the beating and all of that, I still love Asha. So then, fast forward to when she was going to get into university. Ola tried OAU like 3 times because I was in OAU. How many times?
Only 2.
But Isha wanted desperately to come to OAU. She knows our anthem. She knows everything. But
Thank God I didn't. You know.
But you tried. Because what?
Because.
Budget is online bell. Now, I was going to say that eventually OAU lost the talent to Futa. Because although she's my younger sister, but when someone is good, you have to be able to identify. Eventually, she represented our school. Nikki, American, you know.
I represented myself.
Yourself?
Yes, in the United States. So I was one of 5 people that only 5 people were selected.
There's this group.
Enactors, yes.
You went on that class, right?
Students in free enterprise, and it became entrepreneurial action bias.
Yeah, you were part of that, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And it was on that basis you were
that
able
I went to the US, to the University of Connecticut to study.
Okay. So what was it you did? Because it now pissed me that you do too much shakara. So was already in that competition though?
It wasn't a competition.
Mm-hmm.
It was so people were selected. If you've been doing stuff like community projects in your school or in your community to impact lives, we applied and people were selected. Just 5 people were selected. 1 person from OAU. But 2 from Futa.
What's the difference between 2 and 1?
Get out.
Another thing I noticed about her though is, I hate to say this, she's not very brilliant and intelligent, but she gave all of we the sisters almost a shock of our lives. So Ola studied architecture and she did well in school.
Yes.
And even before service, she got a job at my elder sister's firm and she was doing well. They gave her laptops, they gave her benefits that a regular person who had finished serving, a regular worker would get. Mm-hmm. And so she was planning to go and do her master's.
Here's what happened. Immediately I finished school, I got into a master's program from the same school, Federal University of Technology.
In architecture.
Mm-hmm. One of the few selected. Then I also got a job at about the same time. But one day I was going to work. It was at Ojota, I can't forget. And I just climbed that bridge to cross. And I looked down, and you know Lagos now, hustle and bustle. Mm-hmm. And everyone was just walking, brushing. And I stayed on that bridge for about 10 minutes. I think that was a very pivotal point in my life. I was just like, I'm not one of these people. That was just, and I kept chanting that until I got to work. So I was like, if I follow this trajectory that I'm on, or this path that I'm on, do you enjoy what you're doing? Is this fulfilling enough for you? So it was at that point that I started really thinking about the future and what I wanted to do longer term.
So you started your master's program. We're all excited because at that point you were the only one among us that was going ahead for masters. So we're excited that one of us was going. And Ola just made a call one day and said she was stopping masters midway,
as well as the job. So I stopped the masters first. And in about the space of 1 month, I stopped the job as well.
So we didn't understand. I made several calls to her. Who told you to stop? Why are you stopping? And another thing that pisses me about her is the calmness with which you more comfort. Masters like you paid for, and it wasn't like you were not doing well.
Here's the thing:
we didn't understand then. Was it? So you're saying that part where you stayed on the bridge was when you started thinking
about it. But when you have experiences like that, it is really hard to communicate to others what you're feeling. It doesn't make, now that it's been a while, it makes sense to say that, oh, I had an eye-opening experience and I feel like, oh, I need to make some changes. But in that instance, while you're still in the story, it's harder to communicate what you're feeling and the picture you see in your mind to other people, you know. So I think that's what happened. And so it seemed like I was just aloof and uncommunicative at the time, which still happens.
You understood what you were doing. We didn't understand. We were confused. But I think what we eventually have come to appreciate about the decision she made then is we have come to know that she knew what she was doing back then. So if a lady out there really or a young guy who feels everybody is pushing you in a particular direction, they feel you're doing well, but there is something on your inside, you're not just feeling fulfilled. It doesn't matter if a million persons tell you that this is what you should do. You know, there's just that knowing on your inside, that conviction. I think you should follow it.
So I wanted to go full time into impact and development, which is about impacting lives.
Which wasn't even popular at that point.
I think it's more popular now than
I said at that point because I didn't know about it.
Yes. So and you can it's a role where you can literally work with any organization because organizations are either seeking, or at least the responsible organizations are either seeking to do less or seeking to do more good. So it's a space where you can literally work with any organization that is responsible and has sustainability in mind. So
but at that point where you even made a decision to stop, it wasn't like you readily found another option.
So when I stopped, since I had started my master's before my NYSC program, I decided to enroll. Thank God it wasn't too late to do that. So I registered to go for NYSC that year rather than delay it until after my master's. So I registered and I went for my service year after that. And while I was doing that, I was applying for roles, for jobs, and then I got a job with Africa's young entrepreneurs, and I was to work on project Empower Borneo that had me go to Borneo States and work with the Borneo State government.
So, in the space of that time, you were not thinking of marriage, because the normal trajectory is a young lady, a young Nigerian, more than. Okay, the average, let me place it. The average Nigerian lady or African lady feels, okay, so I go to school, I graduate, I do my service. See, from service here, that call-up letter, many people are coming with. So,
are you telling your own story?
Did I go with Bele? How can I tell my own story? Now, I'm just saying that, of course I got married after, but I had worked a period of time. It wasn't immediately. But what I'm saying is, we have more marriages.
You get married immediately after.
That's what I said, I still worked for a space of time. But the average Nigerian lady, marriage is waiting after NYSC. But was it that you were not thinking about it, you were not ready to settle, and you just felt, because afterwards you eventually still went to do the masters, but we're still going to get to that.
So I don't understand. So when people discuss, or when young people discuss marriage sometimes, not all the times, but oftentimes, it confuses me a bit, because it seems like it is an active thing that they are seeking out to do. Like, how do I say? So I believe that relationships and marriage or friendships eventually lead up to marriage or to relationships, and I think that the process should be organic. But when people have this conversation, it seems like
it's just a thing I must do.
When you finish university, you get married.
Whether it's coming naturally or not.
Do you understand? So I feel like my opinion on the issue is that each person has a time, and if you are ready, at the age of 23, I think it's absolutely fine for you to get married. But if you know that there is more for you to do, you could get married and you could still do those things. So one does not have to stop the other. But you do not have to fall to the pressure. Don't let yourself be pressured.
Like it has to be this thing at this particular, like everybody is programmed
to just like this, after this, by the time you are 25, 20, even getting to 23, people start asking you those questions. So
let me just, this lady, how like this? Let's use our in-house slang because not Fegbe, not Begbewo. Not Begbewo. Or Begbewo. Begbewo was friend.
Yes.
So there was a particular year she just said, hey, but let's get married now. And I'm like, not like that. But she was serious. Because she was like, and I'm like, okay, so how do I could not wrap my head around let us get married this year.
Yeah.
So what was I supposed to do? But that I just say that's an insight into the mindset of some people. But it worries me if it doesn't come naturally and ladies just say because this is what the society expects of me. Yeah. Then whether the guy is cool or not cool, and you just go ahead with it. So let's move on to you eventually did your masters.
Yes, I did. An amazing experience. So I did my master's in globalization, business and development at the Institute of Development Studies, University of Sussex. Quite a mouthful.
So proud. Yeah, and I'm so happy. I'm so excited about that. Yeah. So, see, your life amazes me a bit.
Oh, nice to hear that.
Because
I'm glad to be an inspiration to you.
Well, you inspire me.
Oh,
so
that was a joke, boy. Tell that all right.
I'm not a hugger. So
how can you not be a hugger? Let's go on.
Okay. So we are not exactly from rich homes. Yeah. We actually had humble background. We're going to say that just another day. But you've been able to go out for either studies or certification like twice now. This one being the biggest. And you went for a program that is quite expensive and you went for free.
Yeah.
So please tell us how you got that done.
So this is the part where I might get a bit spiritual with you because the truth is that people, I might want to go like, oh, I'd done quite a bit of work, so I told them about how much impact I was having in Nigeria and how the masters would help me have more impact. Yes, I wrote all of that in my application, but ultimately it wasn't because, there are some things that happen and you just realize that it wasn't because you did anything extraordinary, it's because you were just favored and it's because you were just blessed. Because I applied, there was no interview or anything, no correspondence from the organization. Then I just got notification, I think it was August 3rd of 2019, and I just got notification that you've been awarded a scholarship, full scholarship. In total, it was about £28,000, nothing I would have been able to afford based on my salary or what I was earning at the time. So it wasn't because of anything special I did, really. I was just favored by God.
Yes, God is a valid position, but you did some things. I will remind you. You had some projects you had done.
Yes.
Like in Akure, I think you did Adire at some point. Was it basket weaving or something for farmers?
So there were quite a lot of projects there. So there had been projects with Awole rice farmers. There had been health projects. There was this Schistosomiasis
I would
project.
say social.
Social entrepreneurship activities to impact the lives of others. There was even this one about that we did with some farmers, and we got money together for them to get their own processing machines, and got them loans eventually from the Bank of Industry. So quite a number of them. Those were while I was still in school. And then after the decision to stop my master's program and my job in the construction industry. I went on to work with an organization, and I did projects in Borno State's reintegration program for people who had been internally displaced. So quite a number of projects, really.
So I made you say that to say to someone that God doesn't reward laziness. God favored you, but you had background. You had something to write down
about. True.
Abby,
True.
you had something to write about, and it was quite a handful. You had done certain projects. So most times, when we know we're going in a particular direction, you must have invested
time and invested
efforts and everything, such that you would not be lying.
Yes, when the time comes to
right?
present your case.
Life and men in success.
Oh, now Professor.
18 minutes.
What about the men in success? Is it success or in
The
success?
pandemic happened, so there wasn't.
Would you have married a white man?
I could. I'm not overly particular about race and.
I'm not overly particular too, but.
No, really, I'm not. I'm not overly particular about. It's more the content of a person's character, really.
Okay, let me ask, what was the first culture shock you got when you went to Sussex?
So, the Brighton is like the LGBTQ plus capital of the UK, at least. So it's not. So of course I am well educated and vast in about the LGBTQ plus community, but when you've lived in Nigeria all your life or most of it, you're not confronted by the fact of it on a daily basis. But when you're living in a place that is the capital, you get confronted with the fact of it, and it takes a bit of getting used to, to see people and you're not sure if it's a man or it's a woman, and you just take a minute like, okay, so it's like you're seeing it, but your mind needs a bit of
reset.
It needs a minute to comprehend what you're looking at. So there was that. But yeah, it didn't take too long to get used to the LGBTQ plus community. Then maybe another thing is the English politeness. You never know what an Englishman is talking about. If they say interesting, you're not sure. If they tell you interesting, it most likely means you're saying rubbish. Truth be told. So you get a feedback from someone and you're like, was that good or bad? You're not just sure what it was. Yeah, so that was a bit of it took a bit of getting used to. So you have to decipher what the other person is saying, and you have to read everything about them.
Or
You're
like
never
in
really
Lagos,
sure.
when they tell you it's rubbish and it's rubbish.
Well, in Lagos, if it's rubbish, it's rubbish. If they tell you, if you're doing something stupid, they just tell you, oh, you're stupid.
Very pleasant of it. Well, I like us, Gary. What I say is I say. Okay, as we begin to round off, you were there, unfortunately, when COVID hit and everything, and this isolation. You were coming back to Nigeria with the idea of people keep your distance, observing all the regulations and what you're supposed to do. What shocked you when you got back to Lagos, Nigeria?
There's no COVID in Nigeria. Is what I've learned, because the way people. So let me make the difference very stark and plain. So I had been literally mostly by myself for over a year, even working from my room. Then I come to a place where mask was not even. You don't have to wear a mask. You don't have to. You get the buses. I didn't use the bus. I've not used the buses yet, but I've seen people in the buses and I'm like, oh, amazing.
Is it only bus on the road?
On the road. So like no one is keeping any distance at all. But the truth is that by the time I was leaving, they had just lifted the lockdown in the UK as well, just before I was leaving. And probably there had been people starved or crowd starved. It was about the time I was leaving the UK and coming back, the difference was not so much because people were just going out en masse to get some human interaction.
So my final question is, do you feel pressured? You're 30 now.
I'm 30.
Yeah, and not married. Are you happy with yourself? Do you feel pressured about marriage or anything?
No, I don't feel pressured.
Are you
So-
sure?
No, I don't at all. Well, no one's pressuring me except for maybe a few
We're good.
concerned
We're
questions. But one thing that made me realize even more that I wasn't pressured was that on Sunday we were in church and it was Answers Galore. The theme of the program for Sunday was Answers Galore, and we had to write 12 prayer points. And I had just written work stuff, written all those things. Then one could be, it was remaining like 3 points. I was like, God, I must have 12 prayer points here.
You didn't even think of
I didn't even
man.
think about it. I was like, oh yes,
Man.
the relationship will be good. So that just encapsulates how I feel on the
Yeah,
issue.
it's been a GST episode, but I know that someone out there listened to her and you gained something. And you see, I was scrolling through Instagram and I saw where Mama Dejimo
Yeah.
was, Funke Felix Adejimo was saying that men and children are just part of your journey.
Mhm.
Do not hold on your life. Do not be on hold because you do not have either of them.
Of them,
The
yeah.
man will come, yes.
Mhm.
Your children will
And
come.
for the man, the woman would
Yeah,
come
and
as
for the
well.
man, the woman.
Oh, you know,
Woman!
Woman.
Woman.
I heard you say
Oh, you know,
woman.
no, the woman. We want the video together.
Yeah, I'm calling. I just
The
died.
woman.
So, for the man,
Sorry.
the woman will come and your children will come as well. But I'm just saying, and she said, chop life. Like
Enjoy.
now, enjoy
Have
your life
experiences.
and get fulfillment. Like,
Yeah.
I'm sure you enjoy. Hey, oh God, I'm sure you enjoyed this episode.
Well, sure, I got you. Give me episode enjoy Yoruba.
I'm sure you enjoyed this episode of the E.B.U.N Show. Please remember to subscribe. Hit the like
Subscribe,
button.
please.
Thank you so much. I am Ebunlomo Oguntoye. Don't mention your name.
I am
But-
Janet Olo. My makeup.
Kí ló ti problem ọmọ ìfà ìfọlọ? Ṣé wọ́n lọ ní ṣó ni?
I'm going.
Ọlọ́run.